Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon deck profile. So this deck is absolutely one of my favorite decks of all time, and I really am excited to bring this one to you guys because this deck has so much OTK potential, it is ridiculous, and this deck is so fun and easy to play. It is probably one of my favorite decks to play around with, and I've carried it to multiple tournaments and played very well in the tournaments as well. And this deck is very, very easy and versatile to play, and really fun. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell on so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name screwed every single video, getting a signed cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test hands. And without further ado guys, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Blue Eyes Chaos Max. So Blue Eyes Chaos Max is an insanely good card in this deck, because what this card does is basically it does double piercing damage. It can't be destroyed or targeted by your opponent's card effects, and it's a 4000 beat stick. This card is ridiculously good and is the big OTK piece of the entire deck. It is very important that you summon this to your side of the field as quickly as possible, and this deck does that with the greatest of ease, and it is super easy to summon this card to your side of the field in every single game. We then play 2 copies of Blue Eyes Chaos Dragon. You really just need 2 copies of it, you don't need 3. What this card does is, if this card is ritual summoned using a Blue Eyes White Dragon, when it declares an attack, you can change the battle position of all monsters your opponent currently controls as possible, and if you do, the attack and events of those changed monsters become 0, and also this turn, this card can inflict piercing damage, which is a really good effect just to be able to get you an additional bonus in damage and be able to basically make you an OTK piece with your Blue Eyes Chaos Max. This is ridiculously easy to summon as well. You can very easily summon both of these in a turn. You've seen probably a lot of my live duels and seen that I put these both out on the field very quickly and be able to OTK whoever I'm playing against. We then play 2 copies of Incantation Chalice Slime. Chalice Slime I've actually bumped down to 2 from 3 in the build. Chalice Slime's really good, but this deck is so consistent, I just feel like I need 2. Because what this card does is you discard a card, and then if you get special summon an incantation from the deck, and then that incantation's effect will go off, either getting you a monster or a ritual spell from the deck, or ritual spell from the graveyard. But if you don't ritual summon the turn you activate this effect, you take 2500 damage, which really isn't that big of a deal in this deck to take 2500, because you're basically trying to attack your opponent for game in 1 smack, which is really easy to do in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon. This card is the combo piece in the deck. You're going to be using this card all the time with Chaos Form and Advanced Ritual Art, and so you want to play this card as a 3-up because it is extremely important in this deck. We then play for the incantations. We're going to be playing 3 copies of Talismandra. All of your incantations share the exact same effect, which I'm going to note to you guys really quickly. Basically, all your incantations share the ability that you reveal a ritual monster in your hand, and then you special summon both this card and another incantation in the deck. Then, depending on if you summon this card off of another incantation's effect, depends on if you get the bonus effect. So if you special summon this card off of an incantation's effect, you get to add a ritual monster from your deck to your hand. Now, depending on the incantation that you reveal in your hand, depends on the other card you have to reveal. So for example, Talismandra works with ritual monsters, so you have to reveal a ritual monster in your hand to get this card's effect to go off to even special summon itself from the hand, and then special summon an additional incantation from the deck. So this card is very important to be able to play in the deck, to be able to get that additional play going. We then play 3 copies of Incantation Candle, which does the exact same thing as Talismandra, except it works with ritual spells. You have to reveal a ritual spell in your hand, special summon this card, and then an incantation from the deck. And if this card is special summoned by an incantation's effect other than its own, then you get to add a ritual spell from your deck to your hand. You can only special summon and use the effect of incantations once per turn, but the only downside to all your incantations is they lock you out of your extra deck, which is a little bit of a downside, but you can play around it, it's totally fine. We then play a single copy of Bookstone. Bookstone is really good. This card retrieves ritual spells from the graveyard, and then a single copy of Pencil Plume, which retrieves ritual monsters from the graveyard. You just play them at 1 each. I don't mind opening them because I will basically just use them to grab additional monsters out of the deck, or out of the deck for like special summoning out my copies of my Talismandra or Candle. We then play 3 copies of Manju to round out the monsters. Manju is really good in this deck because Manju basically gives you that free summon to your side of the field to basically normal summon it out, and it grabs your ritual monster, ritual spell, which is a really good effect. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Chaos Form. Chaos Form is basically like Miracle Fusion, but in a ritual form. This card can be used to ritual summon any Chaos or Blackluster Soldier ritual monster, but you must also tribute monsters from your hand or field, and or banish Blue Eyes White Dragon or Dark Magician from the graveyard, whose total levels equal exactly the level of the Chaos Ritual Monster or Blackluster Soldier you're trying to ritual summon. So for example, I can ritual summon out my Blue Eyes Chaos Max by banishing a Blue Eyes from the graveyard, which is probably what I'm going to be normally doing with this card. We then play 3 copies of Advanced Ritual Art. Now, Advanced Ritual Art is really good too because you can ritual summon a ritual monster by sending a monster that is a normal monster from your deck to the graveyard that is the same attack as the monster that you're trying to ritual summon. Or not the same attack, but same level as the ritual monster. So for example, if I'm trying to ritual summon Chaos Max, who's a level 8, I can send a Blue Eyes, who's level 8, from my deck to the graveyard to ritual summon the Chaos Max. We then play 3 copies of Trade-In because it's a Blue Eyes deck and you can discard a level 8 to draw 2. We play 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. The Pot of Extravagance are basically here because you need to be able to draw into the deck and you don't care about the extra deck all that much. So this card is very, very pivotal to be able to go into. Yes, it does kind of conflict with your Trade-In because this card says that after this card, you can't draw any cards by any effects. So that's the only downside of this card. Is it kind of conflicts with trade-in a little bit. So you can, if you want to, kind of interchange trade-in and this if you want to, but I really like playing both because it gets me a little bit deeper into the deck because it's not guaranteed you're going to open either one in a given hand. We then play 3 copies of Melody of Awakening Dragon. Melody of Awakening Dragon is going to let you discard a card to add 2 dragon monsters with 3,000 attack and 2,500 less defense, which is your Chaos Max, your Chaos Dragon, and your Blue Eyes White Dragon that you can add from deck to hand off this effect. We play 3 copies of Return of the Dragon Lords. Return of the Dragon Lords is something I wasn't playing in the previous profile, but I kind of bumped it into this one because Return of the Dragon Lords is really good. It lets you special summon a level 7 or 8 dragon monster from the graveyard. It also gives you a protection against destruction effects, which is pretty good, by banishing it from the graveyard to protect your monsters, and it can help you get a Blue Eyes back on the field that you use with an Advanced Ritual Art to help you kind of push for game a little bit, which is why I like this card in the deck, and I bumped it back in. We then play 3 copies of Xian Spy. Xian Spy is my crazy tech of this deck. Because what Xian Spy does is it lets you select a monster on your field and give it to your opponent. Now, that doesn't sound very good, does it? Because you're basically giving your opponent a card and going -1, but when you summon out your copy of Blue Eyes Chaos Max to your field, and then you give him an incantation that has 0 defense, and then you smack the incantation for 8k, it's a pretty good card. And it's really easy to resolve as well, because if you open this card and you open any incantation in a way to summon your Blue Eyes Chaos Max to your field, you essentially just won if your opponent doesn't stop it, which is why this deck is so consistent and so easy to play with. I play 6 draw cards in the deck. It's very easy to get to this card in the deck. You don't have a way of searching it, but it's still really easy to grab out of the deck because you're basically going to draw into it. I mean, if you draw into multiple trade-ins, you can just discard cards to the graveyard and go off with your plays. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, since it is an extravagance deck, you don't really touch the extra deck all that much, so it's very subject to change. If there's anything you don't want to play in here, or something you don't have but you had the whole main deck, you can drop it, and you don't have to play it, because the incantations are going to lock you out of the extra deck anyways, and the Pot of Extravagance is going to banish the majority of the stuff anyways. I am playing a lot of one-of, so keep that in mind. These are basically just suggestions. This is exactly how I play the extra deck when I play it, but it's totally up to you how you play the extra deck. So, we're going to open up with a single copy of Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon. This is a really good card in the deck because basically what this card is going to do is it's going to get you a monster that can banish something when it battles it. It can't be destroyed by battle, and also it can attack twice during each battle phase, which is a pretty good effect. We then play a single copy of number 97. 97 is pretty good. I actually consider putting this at 2 because I do summon this every so often. When Chaos Max can't completely OTK, I'll overlay a Chaos Max on a Blue Eyes that I revived into this card. And basically what it does is you detach 2 materials from this card. You detach your material from this card to take 2 dragon number monsters from your extra deck, and you overlay one of them with the other one. So you basically would special summon a copy of, for example, number 100, and you would special summon a copy of number 38, and then you'd overlay the number 100 on top of the 38, or vice versa. It's totally up to you which way you go. which is the big play of this card. You play a single copy of number 100, which you guys already saw, but basically what this card does is you can detach a material from this card to make this card gain attack equal to the rank of all XZ monsters on the field times 1,000. So on summon, this card counts as a rank 1, and then if you have the copy of number 97, it comes out essentially at a 9,000 beat stick, which is really, really good in this deck. Play a single copy of number 38, which negates spells, Full Armor Photon, which you can overlay on top of another Galaxy monster to be able to pop cards on your opponent's side of the field. Cipher Blade, this is the card that you make last on top of your Full Armor Photon because it can pop additional cards. Cipher Dragon, because it can take a card away from your opponent. Prime Photon, because it starts all of the Full Armor Photon and Cipher Blade on your side of the field to get you 2 pops and a 3,200 attack point monster, which is pretty good. One copy of number 107, because it's really good during battle phase. Divine Knight Felgrand. Felgrand can negate stuff, which is really good. Hieratic Sun Dragon Overlord of Heliopolis, because it can pop stuff. And then Hieratic Sky Dragon of Heliopolis, because it can negate cards that are in the graveyard, because once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a card on the field or in your grave, and or your banished cards, you can quick effect detach a material, and you do negate the activation to destroy it, which is a really good card effect in this deck, just to be able to give you an additional negation for cards that you might know that your opponent's trying to target cards in your graveyard for. Like against, say, Invoked, this card is really, really good. We play a single copy of Dingirsu, because Dingirsu, upon summon, can send a card your opponent controls to the graveyard. Number 90, because you can throw it in defense position, and also when an opponent activates an effect, you can detach a material from this card, negate the effect, and if you do, you just basically negate it because you don't play Galaxy effects in this deck, so it negates a monster effect, so it's a pretty good one-of in here. And then we play a single copy of number 23, Lancelot, Dark Knight of the Underworld. Lancelot is really good, number 23, because it can attack your opponent directly, and also when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls and destroy it, and then once per turn during either player's turn, when a spell or trap is activated, you can detach a material from this card and negate the activation of that card, which is also a pretty good effect. So that's it for the extra deck, guys. You can kind of play the extra deck how you want to. These are basically just suggestions. It's a big toolbox, to be honest with you guys. You don't have to play any of these. You can play completely Galaxy Eyes. You can play 3 and 3 and 3 and 3 and be good. And play 3 of the Felgrand too, and you're fine. Like, it's totally up to you how you play the extra deck, because I play it like this because I want the maximum amount of toolbox in my extra deck. I know that's kind of weird with you playing Extravagance in here, but the incantations kind of lock me down that I just kind of go into it. Like the extra deck is such a side thought in this deck that you don't need it. Like, it's so unimportant that you really just, it's not necessary. I could take the extra deck and throw it away and just play like 15 regular normal fusion monsters, and I would still be okay in this deck. So that's it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell near so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below, because again, it's one of my favorite decks. I would not hesitate to carry this to a tournament because it's super fun to play, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.